by the notorious. Everything you do is big. Conor McGregor is without a doubt the most well-known fighter to ever grace the UFC's octagon, but as he put it himself, it's the skills that pay the bills. McGregor became the first simultaneous double champion in UFC history. He made 9 figures in a single night fighting Floyd Mayweather. And when he made his UFC return after a 15-month absence, he needed only 40 seconds to dispose of Cowboy Cerrone and remind everyone what made him a global phenomenon in the first place.
How good does it feel to be back? Oh, you know, I made history here tonight. Etch my name in history one more time for the Irish people.
But now, Conor has a new challenge in Dustin Poirier. They, of course, met once before at UFC 178 when McGregor was on a rocket ship to superstardom, with the notorious getting the TKO in the first round, just as he predicted.
It's going to be a first-round KO, mark my words.
But as tough as that loss was on Poirier, he just kept grinding, hoping to one day share the octagon with McGregor again. And more than 6 years later, neither are the same fighter they once were. Both have evolved. Both are hungry to once again hoist the UFC strap. Their bad blood over time may have subsided, but their will to be the best burns within both. Will the pride of Ireland reclaim the throne on top of this sport? Or will the Diamond pull off the upset? Either way, we're in for a thriller at UFC 257.
And to get us ready for UFC 257, let's bring in the guys from Morning Combat, Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. Guys, again, it is a rematch between Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier, 6 years in the making. BC, I'll start with you since you narrated the hype piece to get us ready. What are your thoughts here as we get ready for this weekend?
It's just that, look, this is the big deal. This is the major leagues. Obviously, anytime Conor McGregor steps in the fighting surface, whether boxing, MMA, no matter the level of competition, our eyes are affixed to the screen. It's front page news across of all sports. But this one just feels even bigger because it's such a real fight. By Conor McGregor agreeing to take such a dangerous challenge here in this rematch with Poirier, it shows you that he's putting aside the idea for now of being a celebrity fighter and getting back in line to try to regain that lightweight title. Obviously, this is a historically deep division at the moment, regardless of whether we see Khabib Nurmagomedov again. But it's really true from what it was said. 2 different fighters 6 years later. Poirier much more improved and evolved. McGregor, is this a second chapter in his great career as a more mature man? So much at stake. Tommy, I think it was the great Bill Parcells who once said, this is why you lift them weights in the offseason for big fights like this right here.
I don't want to overstate things, but this is not at all the same as the Conor McGregor versus Cowboy Cerrone fight. Cowboy Cerrone has done a lot in the sport, but by the time he had met up with Conor, he had roughly 5 fights in the calendar year against the very best that the UFC had to offer, essentially in the weight classes in which he was competing. And he had been ground to a pulp. He even talked about after the fact, he just mentally wasn't there. And you can't really blame him for that, given the road that he had been down. That is not where Dustin Poirier finds himself today. He is the exact opposite. He is not damaged or broken goods in any capacity whatsoever. He is one of the biggest lightweights. He's one of the hardest hitting lightweights. He can go 25 minutes, no problem. Absolutely battle tested, dramatically improved, certainly with a bit of a score to settle as well. Conor taking this fight is a big, big deal. He is not taking an easy road. Yes, he has a win over the guy, that's true. But as you indicated here with the highlight package from before, 6 years ago in a different weight class, Dustin Poirier is dramatically better. Conor McGregor still retains some style advantages over him, and I think that matters. But I just think you got to give a bit of a nod to the notorious. He is not taking an easy road here whatsoever.
And for Dustin Poirier, got a higher volume of fights, guys. Does have losses to Michael Johnson, no contest with Eddie Alvarez, of course, Khabib. And so on the other side, Luke, I'll start with you talking about what Conor McGregor is doing right now. Been very active on social media. He looks good. Both fighters really do. But here, the notorious MMA has been posting the way he looks right now. Here's one of the shots from about 8 or 9 days ago. So as we get ready for this fight, what do you think fight fans will have realistically in terms of expectations for one of the most popular, if not the most popular fighter in the sport?
Well, expectations are going to be through the roof. I mean, there's expectations and then there's rational expectations. But even then, even with a rational, maybe more managed set of expectations, I'm I'm interested to see what Conor has, because as his last fight was 170 against Cerrone, this is back to 155. I got to tell you, I think this is the best weight class for Conor. He obviously did the majority of his best work at 145. I don't know if he can even get down there anymore. 170 is a place where a lot of 55ers go when they don't want to cut weight. And Cerrone has some good wins up at 170, but he's more of that 55er who just didn't want to cut weight. Same for Conor. But when you got to make that 55 limit, you got to be really strict in your training. You got to be really strict in your diet. That doesn't mean that you can expect the world from Conor. I just think that when he has to focus in a way where making weight in this weight class is the primary objective first, fighting second, you're going to get somebody who's lean, mean, and his power carries up here, as we saw in the Eddie Alvarez fight. I think you can expect a lot, but we're going to have to see on Saturday.
Yeah, I think Luke really nailed the key part about that expectations of Conor. And obviously, with a guy this popular, this polarizing, the expectations are all over the place. But I think you focus in on two things. One, did Conor McGregor lose a largely one-sided fight with Khabib Nurmagomedov the last time he was at lightweight? Yes. But did he do, in some ways, a better job than even Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje did in losing those one-sided bouts to the great Khabib? Yes, he did. You look at the comeback fight against Cowboy Cerrone, it can be a little bit of fool's gold because it lasted 40 seconds, because Cerrone was certainly past his prime. But what I really focused on both the Cerrone build and this one is we really are seeing a mature Conor McGregor. It's not just becoming a father, getting through some of the outside the cage bad headlines that he's been through and all that comes with being a celebrity. I'm seeing a guy committed again to his craft, and that can be a scary thing when you know what it's like, having seen fighters of this level before. When you get this much fame, it can mess with the product of what got you there. I'm seeing Conor come back from everything he's been through in the last 4 or 5 years of super celebrity, of fighting Mayweather, of maybe not living the Spartan lifestyle of a fighter. If you're telling me I'm getting prime Conor McGregor back again at age 32, as prime as he can be, you have to have big expectations once again. Is he a complete fighter with the greatest well-rounded game in MMA history? No. But what Conor McGregor does great, which is seek and destroy with that left hand, with the timing, the accuracy, the power, there's really very few in history who can stand up to that.
And odds makers have McGregor as the betting favorite, laying 3-1, Poirier plus 250. That is the co-main, gentlemen. The other co-main is Michael Chandler, Dan Hooker. I'm going to give you one fighter each. And Brian, I'll start with you. You had a conversation with Michael Chandler about making his UFC debut. What were some of the highlights from the former Bellator star?
Just that he is so excited to finally get this opportunity at age 34 to make the big splash. A 3-time Bellator lightweight champion, has had classic fights over there, but I think he's entering UFC really at a certain level of a prime. Maybe not his prime physical level, but the level where the experience, the maturity, all of that comes together to put his best foot forward. Make no mistake, he's going into the lion's den against a guy the caliber of Dan Hooker. But when you talk about wanting to make the biggest splash possible and coming in as an outsider where sometimes Dana White and company don't roll out the red carpet, he's being given every possible chance. If Chandler beats Dan Hooker on Saturday, it's not out of the question that he would fight next for the title, maybe against the winner of Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier. So big business, big stakes, big opportunity. That's how Michael Chandler loves it.
And I was surprised
Dan
to see
Hooker
him
is
at even money. I'm sorry, Luke. I was just going to say I was fired to see him at even money on the other side, even as slight of a favorite at minus 120. What's at stake here for Dan Hooker? And I know you're about to get started here.
Yeah, for Dan Hooker, I mean, folks who may not be familiar with him, he had just fought Dustin Poirier. Poirier beat him, but maybe beat him in a fight of the year contender. I mean, that was one of the most incredible back and forths in the lightweight division I think I'd ever seen. He is the genuine article. He's one of the top stars, not the top star, but one of them out of the New Zealand camp, City Kickboxing. This is a guy who has an excellent background as a striker. And one thing to really pay attention here is the height differential. He is very tall for the weight class. Michael Chandler is not. And why that's important is you got a guy like Dan Hooker who loves step through knees. He loves to slug it out in the pocket. He has good anticipation, decent ground skills as well. He's got a bit of a jiu-jitsu game. He can defend some wrestling along the way as well. So we'll have to see what kind of game plan that Michael Chandler employs. But if he gets overly aggressive and doesn't mind his P's and Q's, a guy like Dan Hooker will absolutely set him on fire. So in either case, if you are Dan Hooker and you beat Michael Chandler, you just beat the 3-time Bellator champion. Conversely, no matter who wins, you're beating somebody of a very credible caliber. It's a spectacular co-main event.
All right, we're getting ready for Saturday, guys. And, of course, all the talk, Khabib Nurmagomedov. Will he come back? Will he not? Dana White alluding to potentially having his superstar return, saying, quote, I have the feeling that if somebody delivers, if these guys could do something special, Khabib will fight them. Both thoughts here, starting with Luke first. What are we to take away from Dana White's comments?
Not much. I don't really read into it. I thought that whole thing was goofy and nonsensical to begin with, where they were treating it like it was LeBron's decision, to the point where even social media accounts associated with the network that airs it were putting pictures side by side of LeBron and Khabib as if this was something you wanted to like revisit. I mean, that event was widely panned when it happened. You want to make the comparison to that? It's like, hey, we're going to go on a fun trip. Yeah, it'll be just like taking a ride on the Hindenburg. Okay, if that's the comparison you want to make, I suppose that's a road you can go down. So first of all, I'm not even sure I really believe what Dana White is saying. I wouldn't take him at his word necessarily. So is it true that if somebody really impresses him, he'll come back to the octagon? Maybe, but I would like to get Khabib's sense of things, what he said. He told Dana White what he believes. Now, it certainly is possible. If you got 4 excellent, high caliber, quality lightweights, could that lure somebody like Nurmagomedov back in? Maybe, but to me, it's like he's retired until he says he's not. Everything else is just smoke and mirrors.
You nailed the best part there, Luke, until he says. He's not the one talking right now, so it's really hard to believe. Let's not forget every public statement since Khabib retired in the cage after beating Justin Gaethje last year. Every time Khabib's talked, he said he's done. He's making a promise to his mother and late father. His career is over. Every time Dana talks, it's optimism. It's hope. Of course there's hope. Dana's a promoter. It's better for everyone. Media, fans, fighters, promoter, everyone. If the great Khabib Nurmagomedov, the pound-for-pound king at the moment, one of the greatest fighters of all time, continues on for business, for legacy, all that. Until I see Khabib grab a microphone and say, yeah, Dana's right. I'm going to be watching closely on Saturday. This seems like a great promotional ploy to get more eyes to a card that's already going to break the internet come Saturday night at UFC 257. All
right, so latest on Khabib Nurmagomedov, and then the lightweight bouts on the co-main events are thanks to Luke Thomas and Brian Campbell. We're going to be breaking it down all week long. The guys do a great job of breaking it down on their show as well. Morning Combat 3 times a week. You can catch it on YouTube. Subscribe anywhere podcasts are found. Rate and review. And again, just a reminder, we'll have you covered every single day on CBS Sports HQ leading up to Saturday night.
Want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis. No yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.